So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is titled The Marketplace Model, Added Value or an Economic Recovery Mechanism. We're going to give people a couple more minutes just to get online and get ready, but we will be starting in approximately 2 minutes time, so please stick with us. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're joining us from the Americas. And welcome to today's webinar, The Marketplace Model, Added Value or an Economic Recovery Mechanism. My name is Alan Moss. I'm responsible for marketing at Miura Systems. We're a leading supplier of mobile acceptance solutions, been around for the past 12 years or so. And certainly we're really excited to be part of this drive to increased safe and convenient cashless payments in a post-COVID era. We're seeing strong increase in contactless and NFC payments. And I think what we're also starting to see is a slightly different consumer journey. Maybe it begins at home, it then goes online, outside, or even curbside to collect. We're also seeing increased use of kiosk systems. So I think from all our perspectives, the world of payments is continuing to change, and that's certainly a good thing for card or cashless payments. As you know, today's seminar is organized by the Merchant Payments Ecosystem, an event typically held in Berlin during February. Recently, they had a summer week online event running earlier this month, which managed to get together 1,800 participants from the merchant and payment ecosystem, with some 40 industry influencers and experts. We're now obviously hoping that we can go ahead and start scheduling face-to-face events like the ecosystem in February, but obviously still some questions about that. In terms of today's webinar, we have around 150 people registered. We have some questions and we'll be going on to question and answer at the end of the presentation. So just looking at the statistics, and I know all of us have been very much focused on what's happening with the COVID pandemic and economic recovery, I noted that the US and the UK are both reporting increases in retail sales. So in spite of COVID, around 2.6, 2.7% growth in August of this year versus last year. I also saw the results coming in from Visa. This was their Q3 results, which showed actually a high single figure transaction growth in July. A lot of that was triggered by strong card not present growth, which in many ways was balancing slightly weaker return to positive numbers from card present. Recently, so this was earlier this month, ACI published their data showing global e-commerce transactions. And there we could see a 24% increase in August compared with last year. So very much the trend in e-commerce strength is continuing through the summer. Perhaps not surprisingly, back to school items increased very strongly, so around 56% in the period through to August, along with things like sporting goods, outdoor goods, pet supplies, and even DIY. I was a little surprised to see gaming up by 109%, but I don't think anyone would be surprised to see that big items like travel or ticketing, or big ticket items in those areas, were substantially down. Now, today's webinar is sponsored by Limonetik, which is a company specialized in enabling the new world of payments, providing a platform that supports PSPs and acquirers, payment facilitators, marketplaces, and merchants. And certainly our focus today, as you know, is very much on the marketplace side of e-commerce. So I'd like to introduce our two speakers. We have Masha Cilliers, who's a specialist partner at consultancy BE, as well as being a board advisor and non-exec director at Limonetik. She has over 25 years experience in payments, from blue chips to fintech, and currently provides advice to companies on e-commerce, marketplaces, m-commerce, mobile payments, and fraud management. I'd also like to introduce Christophe Bourbier, who's the CEO and one of the co-founders of Limonetik, starting up in 2007. Prior to that, Christophe was a consultant with Capgemini, as well as being an entrepreneur in very interesting areas such as phone marketing, setting up a TV channel for business creation, as well as a marketplace for plastic surgeons. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Christophe to take the rest of the program ahead. Christophe.
Thanks, Alan, for that introduction. I'm just going to give a big picture about Limonetik in a nutshell. So as you said, Limonetik, we are a marketplace payment platform. And as you said, we work mainly for gateways and acquirers, as you can see on the left bottom. We work for gateways and acquirers that want to leverage on Limonetik technology to offer to their own merchant or to their own marketplace clients some API, marketplace API with everything included. Okay, so we work, Limonetik is a white label payment platform that work for gateways, acquirers, payment institution, payout provider, and we enable them, we help them to build some marketplace API. We also work for some merchants directly or for some marketplace directly. You can see a few logos on the bottom on the right. And what we do for them is what we do for gateways and acquirers is that we offer to them some API that include everything from processing of payment method, reconciliation, accounting, ledger, payout calculation, and connectivity to a Miracle type of technology, for instance. And also they can benefit from our services through one contract and one back office and one easy settlement to understand. So that's Limonetik in a nutshell, one API, one contract, one settlement to enable marketplace very easily. And that's what we do for gateways acquirers as a white label payment solution, or sometimes directly for merchant and marketplaces. All right, so now let's dig into this marketplace world and why is it important today to think of marketplaces, why marketplaces are moving with the lines today. And again, we had that amazing fundraising from Miracle a few days ago of $300 million, amazing fundraising for in France, and whose objective is mainly to build marketplaces. Masha, if you want to let us go into that world. Thanks.
There we go. So thank you very much, Christophe. Indeed, I would like to, I guess again, to join you to congratulate Miracle. Is really great news for the industry because these guys have been to me, at the forefront of helping many companies understand how to become a marketplace from the less traditional corners, if you like, of the industry. I'll talk a little bit about it later. First of all, I would like to talk about the marketplace growth and why it's there, what it means, and what do we mean by marketplaces generally, as well as what is the potential of that sector. So first of all, I'd like to argue that marketplaces stem from two economic factors, macroeconomic factors. One is that the e-commerce is expanding. If you look at the overall retail numbers, for example, worldwide, you will see that e-commerce is definitely the fastest growth of the retail sector. Additionally, you'll say that a lot of e-commerce is also going cross-border. So cross-border volumes are growing again exponentially and much outperform the local growth. Why are the marketplaces facilitating those? Well, because in order to launch marketplace, many retailers will use, in order to launch in different countries, many marketplaces will use a marketplace as a channel to sell. For that, they don't need to have physical presence. For that, they don't have to build supply chains. They can go into the existing supply chains of marketplaces. So we feel that the economic growth of e-commerce and cross-border is definitely fueling the growth of marketplaces. Philip, we can see you upside down. Just thought I'd mention that. Secondly, whilst there's macro factors driving marketplaces, it's also fueled by consumer preferences. I don't know about yourselves, but myself, I live in UK, so we've had quite a serious lockdown here. I have turned to buying many items which in the past I would have bought physically online. Some of it was just to be able to get the items which were sold out in the shops, but sometimes you start looking at things like different, the choice, the wideness of choice, better prices, and so forth. Here's some statistics that we looked at in the past, and you can see some of the driving factors for Asia, Europe, and North America. Better prices definitely at the top there. You can buy toys almost directly from manufacturers these days in China, which means you're paying a fraction of the price. Also, shipping was very important, especially for North America, and broader selection was very important, especially for the Europeans. So with both of those, what we've seen is a huge evolution, expansion of marketplaces. This is a slide that we made up about a year ago as we looked at, if you like, the growth patterns of marketplaces as a B consulting group. So we identified three major sectors. The retail and product marketplaces, this is one you're probably most familiar with. So this is where the Amazon and eBay falls into that category. This is where marketplaces either a pure player, so they don't actually sell their own products, but they allow others to sell products, a bit like eBay, or marketplaces like Amazon, where they have their own products, but they add new products via marketplace approach. So rather than stocking those items themselves, they let others put those sell that through their website. Then we saw, so that kind of started 95, 96 with emergence of some of the now very large players. Now, about 10, 15 years later, we saw emergence of services, travel, and manufacturers moving into the marketplace as well. So here you've got some of the familiar names such as Uber, Deliveroo, Funding Circle. So they cover a broad range of industries, but generally they were built specifically because of the marketplaces, the marketplace platform approach, and they took that approach in order to sometimes launch absolutely novel services like the food delivery companies we mentioned over there. And finally, we're also moving to the shared economy, which is more of or gig economy to the degree. You can, I guess, kind of, we put that in the shared economy. This is where companies are providing a platform to sell things that in the past weren't even sold, like an Airbnb, renting apartments, or providing a platform for individuals to provide services to other individuals, such as Lyft, holiday lettings, and Uber. And so you will see that in the last 25 odd years, the growth in marketplaces has been huge. And whilst, again, when we talk about marketplaces, most people keep thinking about kind of eBay, Amazon, maybe a couple of others. I'd like to make sure that you guys understand the broadness of that sector. It now includes not just the traditional name, but includes anyone from hotel chains to manufacturers. I'll jump on the next slide. Just take us back a little bit. So what is so different about marketplaces? Well, if you think about it, the traditional merchant supply chain is linear, right? So you have some kind of you have manufacturer, you have warehousing, you have distributors, often multiple distributors and multiple wholesale for goods which are being brought from other countries. Now that, of course, eats into the margin. A good example, anecdotal example, I was looking at some pricing, some toys for my little boy from Alibaba, which is a Chinese marketplace, which allows manufacturers to sell directly. And that same toy that I would buy in UK for £20, I could buy for £1. And so arguably, that's how much the intermediaries are charging. Obviously, there are pros and cons to those models. But what we will be talking about later as example for the COVID and the disaster that some of the retailers had with their supply chains, this supply chain is kind of cast in stone. It's very difficult to replace parts of it. It's very difficult to evolve and change quickly over time. So let's contrast this with marketplace supply chain. Well, here you effectively have a platform into which you plug in on one side multiple sellers and on another side multiple customers. So they all be enabled. They can be enabled within a matter of hours. I think again, Amazon onboarding of a seller is something like 48 hours. There's some marketplaces that can do it faster. Even if we're talking about a matter of weeks, it allows to implement fast response to the market conditions, such as COVID, or such as increased demand in toilet paper, flour, sugar, what have you, which again we experienced in the past year quite a lot. So Marketplace is a platform that allows that overall relationship, but also transaction. So for the purposes of our studies and the discussion later, I'd like to underline we are talking about marketplaces which provide the purchase as well. So they're not just allowing you to meet each other, but they also facilitate the purchase, which makes marketplaces a lot more sellable. So at B, what we did again last year for a couple of our clients, we've looked and researched heavily into marketplaces, current marketplace statistics, which there aren't many of, I must say, and then looked at some of the potential across. We broke this into 3 sectors. So P2P, that's your eBay, that's one selling to one person selling to another person. B2C, which is the more traditional, so that's where retail sits quite heavily, which is where effectively you are you're either launching marketplace yourself, like Amazon, or you're using marketplace to push products to customers, be that in different countries or different sectors to you. And B2B. Now, you will see that if we look at, so what the dark columns there are statistics for the actual e-commerce volumes in those sectors. So when we calculated the growth of marketplaces, we looked at 2 things. We looked at the expansion of marketplaces themselves, expansion from, as I just talked about earlier, these retailers starting to sell online, but also many of the companies such as manufacturers, such as franchises, realizing that marketplace might be a solution for them to grow and expand. And also we've looked at the growth of e-commerce, which is underpinning this. So when we put those statistics together and kind of used our modeling, we came up with a potential in 2024 of over 7 trillion that could be going through the marketplaces. And the highest growth there is in the B2B marketplaces. So there's definitely a lot of excitement in that. So I will be passing over back to Christophe to talk a little bit more about what has Limonetik been seeing in terms of the, some of the use cases, and also what are these businesses and what are the benefits of running the marketplaces, as well as talking a little bit more about some of the challenges that marketplaces hold for those who want to implement them.
Thank you, Masha. Thanks a lot for those explanations. So we have a few business cases to share with you guys. Some of them might be surprising to you because they are not that evident. And I'm going to start with that one that is very funny, Tetra Pak. So we all know Tetra Pak, I would say, from the milk and from the product that we can find in the department stores. But actually, Tetra Pak is a manufacturer. And those guys, they built some machinery to help the food industry to put the food and to have the food into packages. So they build machinery that help food manufacturer to have their food packaged just at the end of the process. And so Tetra Pak, they sell engine machinery everywhere in the world. But what they wanted to offer was a one-stop shopping solution online where a food manufacturer could find the Tetra Pak machineries, engines, but also could find everything that is around to make sure that those machines can work properly. And so you can find on their marketplaces, so their machinery, their engines, but also the spare parts, and all the components that a food manufacturer might need to make sure that everything is working properly. And you can find product, spare part, as I said, but also maintenance services and some training, also services that you might want to have once your Tetra Pak machine is in place at the end of your food process, okay? So for Tetra Pak, it's a nice way to have more services, more products sold in addition to what they do, what they have been doing for years, but also to get back some direct connectivity with their end clients that sometimes they might not know anymore because Tetra Pak services and product might be distributed by local distributor, as a matter of fact. Okay, so one-stop shopping solution, added value product, or a cross sell type of sell on their website, and also some direct connectivity, back to direct connectivity with their end user that again are the food manufacturer. So that was for Tetra Pak. That's a marketplace that we launched and signed with N4, a web help payment institution that is a very important Limonetik partner. Second slide, second business case. We have Stop COVID. So Stop COVID is something that was requested by the French government. And it has been requested by the French government when we had that lockdown. A bit in, it was in March, the 18th of March, to be clear, in France. And what we had at that time is that we had an amazing shortage, and I think it was the same in other countries of Europe. But we had an amazing shortage of toilet paper. I believe it was the case everywhere in the world. I don't know why. I'm still wondering why we had that shortage of toilet paper. But also we had a strong shortage of sanitizing gel and any mask and other product that we all use today on a day-to-day basis without nothing that we have them. But in France, we had a shortage. And we had a shortage for different reasons. We had a shortage because first, the shops, most of the shops that could distribute those products that they would have bought from wholesaler or from with a direct connection from suppliers, well, those shops, for some of them, were closed first, because also delivery was a pain in France. And so even though we had the stocks somewhere, well, distribution and delivery of those products has been complex. And so this is why the French government asked for a direct connection in between buyers of sanitizing gel and mask. So buyers and producer or suppliers, okay? Then we did that, and also by doing that, we avoided, of course, all the steps that Masha had explained. But in that scenario, it was not a cost-saving type of approach. It was just to make sure that the delivery channel was not blocked by what was going on with that a COVID situation where people could not go to work or could not open the shops anymore. So it has been a very successful marketplace because first it has been launched in between 15 days. It has been done with Miracle, you know, the company that has raised $300 million. It has been launched with Miracle and also with Rebel. It has been done within 15 days with an amazing pressure coming from the situation, of course, and from the government. And in May, 49 million of products had been purchased on that marketplace just after we launched it, almost in a way, or after 1.5 months. Okay, so again, the idea here was to make that delivery process more seamless and to avoid that intermediate step of that distribution with maybe some intermediate wholesaler or some intermediate distributor that these guys could be blocked and that we could end up with shortage of product at the very end. Then the third one is Argos. So Argos is a famous shop, and those guys, it's not an existing business case. Argos as considered to be a marketplace. In a way, it's also a marketplace because this is those big shops. Actually, in a way, they aggregate product from different suppliers. In a way, and the idea behind that potential business case is that Argos could come and compete a bit better with the like of Amazon, because we all know that on Amazon we find any type of product. You don't even need anymore to search the product on Google to make sure that it is on Amazon, because you go directly on Amazon and you are 100% sure to find the correct product. And why is it so powerful? Because Amazon, for a big percentage of their product, those products are managed, delivered, stocked by third parties. Okay, and sometimes, by the way, when Amazon realized that a product is a nice product or a nicely well purchased product, then sometimes they might decide to internalize and do the same traditional process that they do as a traditional, I would say, merchants. But today with Amazon, you have as many products as you want, and this is easy for Amazon to do that because, again, they open their marketplace to any type of sellers, wherever they can be and whatever the product could be. And so for the like of Argos, that have been very successful in store, but that want also to be successful online. Well, a nice way to compete a nice way to offer as many products in a way as Amazon is to open a marketplace. And then the job is not the same anymore. The job is not just to source suppliers, buy product, store product, send product, and do the after sale. The service, the job of Argos in that manner would be just source the supplier and then let the supplier store the product, send itself the product, do the after sale. And here you can see that. So again, it's very powerful to enrich the portfolio of products. But as Masha was saying, it's a strong way as well to avoid, intermediary step as well and extra cost. So at the end, more product, less expensive, and more competitive to the like of Amazon or all the Alibaba and so on. Okay, so Argos, which is a product-oriented retailer, and then the last marketplace that is a marketplace also to be. They think of becoming a marketplace. They might become a marketplace themselves. Is Mercedes. And Mercedes, well, we could imagine why the hell do they want to become a marketplace? Because those guys, they sell cars, obviously, online. But a bit like Tetra Pak, the first business case we have covered, Mercedes, they know that they are not just car dealers. They are car dealers. And for many years, they also offer a lot of loan with the car, by the way. So they do car, but they are also a bank that push loans to make sure that people can buy very easily their car with a low monthly cost. But they could be much than a loan company or a bank company or a car manufacturer and distributor. They can offer insurance with the car. They can distribute and offer the spare parts. They can also provide the maintenance if you might want to prefer to trust Mercedes to do the maintenance. Of course, it's not going to be done by Mercedes itself, but it's going to be done by a network of garages that will be selected and validated by Mercedes. But you could also want to have some parking purchase that could be done also through either the automobile, the car, or also online. And if you go into the details, then you realize that Mercedes could leverage on the brand and on their website, but also on the car itself, where you can find also now some a lot of digital components and some big screen like in the Tesla. And so therefore, through the car or through their website, they can offer amazing number of extra services that were not able to be pushed by Mercedes a few years ago without this marketplace setup in mind. Okay, if you think about it, push a little bit further, in a way, you could buy your McDonald's in the drive through your car, and this would be done either through a wallet of Mercedes, but also because, in a way, on your dashboard, Mercedes dashboards, and you could find all the product that could be pushed by all the shops, all the restaurants that you are passing by with your car, or in which you want to stop, but just want to do some, drive-in type of sales. Okay, that's a bit after what I just described, but that's where we go. And of course, this would be done it could be done very easily into a marketplace with marketplace type of setup. Okay. And so we mentioned a few of those guys who benefit, of those players who benefit from marketplace type of setup. And again, Masha mentioned it with the cycle of marketplaces. Most of the time, when one think of marketplace, we think of the peer-to-peer marketplace and let's say Amazon, Alibaba, the big stars. So the pure player will be Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Uber, Airbnb, and also guys like eBay or Rakuten in France. And of course, that Amazon that is very successful. And so this tend to hide a little bit all the other marketplace setup that you could find actually in the digital world. And again, when we talk about marketplace, this is not just because you do some sharing industry or that you are a peer-to-peer type of merchant. A marketplace is a setup where you need to collect some funds somewhere locally, and you want to dispatch those funds to a network of vendors, to a network of franchises, to a network of shops, of taxi driver, of restaurant, and so on. And you want to do that very carefully because you want to make sure that when you collect the fund and dispatch the funds to all that network of merchants, shops, independent guys, you do that without losing money, and you do that by taking into account some rules to know exactly how much money you owe to whom. And so back to the benefits. Sorry, I was a bit long on that, but back to the benefits and for whom. So retailers, that's kind of obvious. Retailers, they just want to, in a way, broaden the range of product that they offer today, and they want to lower their cost, as we just saw with Argos. And they lower the cost and they broaden their range of product, because then they cut into the logistic cost that they might have. They cut into the step of the logistic, and they enable that direct link in between buyers and their own suppliers. Okay, and also in terms of cash flow, it's then they optimize in a way the cash flow. So that's more obvious for retailers, because most retailers, we know it now, most retailers have launched or are going to launch their own marketplace, again, to compete against Amazon. But to be honest, no one is going to go really compete against Amazon. Amazon is going to stay Amazon. There won't be any copy and paste, but at least to have access to the more product to sell, more margins, and more cost savings along the delivery value chain. So that's for retailers. Then manufacturers, that's what we said with Tetra Pak. Manufacturers, for most of them, they lost completely the relationship with their own clients internationally, because manufacturers, they most of the time leverage on local wholesalers or on local distributors of their own products, okay? And so therefore, for manufacturer, it's a super efficient way to, by offering a one-stop shopping services to their industrial clients, it's a nice way to get back, to get to a direct relationship with their final client. Okay, so direct relationship with their final clients that have used their product for years, but that sometimes even don't know that they are the manufacturers of the product. So direct relationship, and also more value added around their product, because then they can make more margin on services or side product or maintenance or trainings that they can offer on their marketplaces, and therefore add some revenue to what they have been doing with their product, so sold product. Then franchise. Again, I'm going to switch off my video because the Wi-Fi is low to what I've understood. So franchises, when you think about it, and that you buy your McDonald's sandwich, if it happens to you to go to McDonald's, or that you buy a room on Accor website.com, well, the sandwich that you buy on .com, or the hotel room that you buy on Accor.com, you are not going to consume, or you are not going to collect the sandwich at McDonald's.com. You are going to collect the sandwich at the restaurant down the street where you are. And that restaurant, in 90% of the time at McDonald's, is going to be a franchise. That's the same for Accor Hotel. When you buy a room at Accor, on Accor.com, you are not going to spend the night in a hotel most of the time that belong to Accor, but most of the time with Accor, those hotels belong to franchises all around the world. And so when you think about it, here again, well, the flow of money is going to go to one account that is a .com account, and that flow of money has to be sent directly to the franchise, the restaurant down the street, or the hotel where you want to spend the night. And by doing so, by organizing correctly that type of marketplace, then as a master franchise, it's going to be much easier for you or cost effective for you to distribute that money real time and avoid end of month invoicing, because you know that a master franchise, they make money, of course, out of their franchises by charging them a fee, depending on the brand that they use, depending on the volume of money they can make. And this, they charge it at the end of the month. But by organizing that with a marketplace, then everything can be, every fees for the master franchise can be collected real time. Even before then you send the money to the franchisees. Okay. And then last but not least, well, pure play fintech. Those guys, they are the most famous one, I believe, because we know them, we use them already today. Again, the Uber, the Airbnb, the like of Deliveroo and so on. Those guys, that's an amazing setup for them to avoid hiring hundreds and thousands of people. And so they leverage on amazing network of people that are ready to share their room, to share their car, to share their food when it is about Deliveroo. And for them, it's an amazing way to have amazing offer of product and services everywhere, because they leverage on existing network and without to invest in too much in human resources beside their own human resources, but without to invest into restaurant, taxi, room, hotels, and so on. And that's what made the success of all those last pure player that got so big for the last decade. Okay, so many different benefits that are different depending on the type of players that want to launch that marketplace and at what level of the value chain that player could be. Okay, so many benefits, but and I'm not going to dig into details. Marketplace sounds easy for everyone. It sounds easy for the user. I mean, it's so easy to grab a taxi now and forgetting that you are paying with a taxi or order something on Amazon, or because you can find any product, or order something on Deliveroo because that's very easy on the app, and then you don't even see that you are paying. But in the back end, that's a kind of revolution in terms of the flow of payment. Why? Let's start from the left. Because a marketplace has to handle the processing. Processing sounds easy, but if you want to have an international marketplace, then you want to make sure that you do a proper processing of different typology of payment method. And I just remind you that credit card is no longer the unique payment method that is used in the digital world. 75% of digital transactions are done through alternative payments like Alipay, WeChat, like PayPal, like Apple Pay, Amazon Pay, and so on, and that you have 300 different payment methods in the world that are worth that you need to have on your marketplace to make sure that your international expansion will be great. And this is for B2C, but in B2B, because we mentioned a lot of B2B marketplaces, B2B marketplace is a lot about deferred payment or bank transfer payment or SEPA or SWIFT type of bank transfer that you need also to be able to offer to those marketplaces, or you need to be able to reconcile, because that's a lot about reconciliation when it comes to bank transfer. Then you have your clients that want to buy your product, with a good payment method, but on the other side, you have a second client. And the second clients are the sellers, are the restaurants, are the taxi driver, are the suppliers, any type of suppliers you can have on your marketplace. And that's the second clients that you have, because if you don't have a lot of suppliers, vendors, distributors on your marketplace, you will have a poor marketplace. And therefore, you won't have any merchants. You won't have any buyers on your marketplace. That's a traditional chicken and egg type of situation for marketplace. And that's where you need to have a nice back office, quick onboarding, easy onboarding, seamless onboarding on the vendor side. And so you want to something that is easy to use for the vendor, easy to follow for the vendors, but also for the marketplace itself. You want something that takes maximum 24, 48 hours that can apply in any countries, because you want to have vendors in any countries in the world. And that is very secured and that respect PSD2, constraint in Europe, at least, because of course you want to respect all the constraints from Europe. Then fees and reporting. Well, money comes in from different payment methods. You want to make sure you receive the good money, and money goes out to the vendors, net of different type of fees, because as a marketplace, you want to keep some fees to make your living out of that. And so you want to make sure that all the payout will be calculated real time, net of different typology of fees, because you are not going to charge same things for the vendor number 1 and the vendor number 2 and the vendor number 3. This will vary. This will vary depending on the payment method that can be used. This will vary maybe also on your negotiation with them. And so you need to make sure that the money that you are sending has been correctly received, and that you are sending the correct amount of money, and that you explain that to your vendors, because they want to understand what has been settled to them, and that you explain that as a marketplace, or that you explain that to the marketplace, or that the marketplace understand the whole picture of that flow of payment and understand it. Column number 4, escrow and payout. Just mention a little bit payout, but escrow, of course, you cannot play with the funds and play with the money without respecting a few rules, like the PSD2 rules that we have all heard about. And that's where you need to, of course, escrow the money, make sure that that money is escrowed on account that belong to payment institution. And that, again, you take into account all different type of cost, of FX cost as well, that can come into the picture when you do the payout. Web shop, ERP, again, that's very important to make sure that you are correctly connected to the important ERP or marketplace solution like Miracle that we just talked about, so that your solution is well connected to the good and important solution on the front, like guys like Magento, Hybris, maybe PrestaShop, you name them, but also to those solutions like Miracle, which is again a very big partner of Limonetik, that will help big retailers or big franchises or big manufacturer to launch very quickly their marketplace solution. And that connectivity sometimes can take time and can be sometimes a bit tricky. And then, well, compliance, I've just actually mentioned it a little bit. You want to make sure that everything you do respect first PSD2, but also respect payment facilitation rules that are imposed by Visa, MasterCard, by the scheme. And so when you play with the funds, when you make those funds with the flow of funds, like marketplace, you have a few rules to respect when it comes to that management of flow of money, pay-in and payout. Okay, so super amazing advantages for everyone, for buyers, for vendors, for the marketplace themselves, cost saving, more revenues. But then if you want to have some international dimension and ambition, then you should pay attention before you get started to that payment part that can become very tricky again if you want to have that international ambition when you launch your digital marketplace. I'm just checking the time. And so super easy a few words on Limonetik, but I believe you have understood. Limonetik, we are that marketplace payment platform that offer marketplace API, and we are connected to 250 payment methods in the world. We can collect the funds thanks to our PI partners of those payment methods. We can distribute those funds to the different vendors or sellers or suppliers in the world by doing some payouts in different countries, and also by doing some real-time and quick KYC or KYB of the vendors. Okay, and we do all of that through one API, integrated API. This is very seamless for merchant. This is very seamless for marketplace, but this is also very seamless when it comes to acquirers, banks, financial institution, or gateway that use Limonetik as a white label solution for them to offer themselves to their merchant those marketplace solution. And so everything is very seamless with Limonetik because we have built that component that is very able to aggregate all processing data, financial data, business data that we can aggregate to make those flow of funds, pay in and pay out very easy and seamless for the merchant, for the marketplace, but also for the payment player when they use us as a white label solution. Okay, and last but not least, we don't see it here with the color, but what we've presented here, this ability to connect to payment method, to collect the funds as a payment institution, to redispatch the funds. So we can do that for merchant, but we can also interchange any of the component that I've just mentioned. I can interchange the gateway of Limonetik with Ingenico, for instance. I can interchange my financial institution or my acquiring of funds with the one of Société Générale, of BNP, of Barclays, of Citibank, very easily because we can interchange all those components. And the unique objective here is again to act as a white label payment solution that will offer the services to gateways, ISO, bank, acquirers, payment institution, and payout provider that would like to offer themselves end-to-end marketplace solution to their own merchant and marketplaces. So that's what we do at Limonetik, and we have been doing that for a few years now. And I have some nice reference. I think it's on the next slide. I've got some nice references among B2C and B2B marketplace that we do directly, or for B2C and B2B marketplace that we do for acquirers, payment institution, and gateway, and so on. And that's the last slide, I believe. Alan. No, that's not the last slide. That's what we do.
Great. So thank you very much, Christophe, and thank you, Masha, as well. Masha, I think you're there still, so hopefully to join us, and Christophe as well, for a little bit of question and answer based on the presentation that you went through. I thought you had some great examples there, certainly with things like Stop COVID-19, with Argos, also with Mercedes-Benz. And as far as I can see, everyone to some degree is getting into marketplaces. I know here in Spain, we buy a lot of stuff online through El Corte Inglés, a very big department store, which kind of operates, I guess, a bit like a marketplace. So to me, the question, Christophe, is, are you seeing department stores becoming like marketplaces? Are the roles starting to blur? Is everyone trying to be a marketplace? Christophe, that one's for you.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Sorry for that, guys. So actually, everyone is trying to add more services and more product to their portfolio of their catalog. Sure. And one way of doing that is doing that through a marketplace. So yes, everyone is using the marketplace tool to reach that. More product, more margins, less cost in the delivery process, and that's why most of department stores in general want to launch marketplaces. They are not going to become 100% marketplaces. No, they just want to launch marketplaces to offer to get access to all those value-added services that we have just described. Yeah, yeah.
So it's almost like
important to add, you know, what you were saying before with Amazon, for example. A lot of here in UK, we read about big retailers. They're closing the stores. You know, they are losing business to the online kind of giants, and many of those are marketplaces. Why? Because I think, as one of you said before, you go there and everything, you can buy everything in one go, right? You know, you go to Amazon, you know, you'll be able to buy socks, paper, book, and whatever ballet dress for your daughter. So I think with many supermarkets, they're struggling to keep up, and to keeping up in the traditional linear way, as in buying more and more products and broadening the product lines, is counterproductive, especially if they're talking about the challenges that they're having with their P&L as well. So I think for department stores, a wise approach is to look at definitely the expansion as a marketplace, whilst keeping the core products that they're good at, but then expanding as a marketplace. So there's another good example of such department stores, of course, La Redoute in France, which is the online version of Galeries Lafayette. So, and they've been quite successful in doing that, whilst their competitor, Printemps, has not done the same. So,
so it's almost like an extension to the existing activities for many of these department stores. Well, it was certainly very interesting to understand how you view the marketplace model, and I like those 6 buckets that you put up there. But I was just wondering if you really had to condense it down to, let's say, the top 3 real hot issues that your customers are facing right now, and how you're helping them with that. What would be the response? I guess the question is, why Limonetik versus another platform provider? Christophe, you want to take that one?
Okay. Yeah, understand. So yes, marketplace, we are not the only one to do marketplaces. I believe at Limonetik, the USP of Limonetik is this ability for big merchants, big corporates that wants to launch marketplace, to have a live end-to-end marketplace API, but with a component that they want inside. So if they want to work with their bank, they have been working for years and years because it's a good bank, good partner, they have some good fees, good loan, some factoring that comes from the bank, they might want to stick with that bank for those reasons. Or maybe, for instance, if a department store has got some POS already set up in all shops, you might not want to change your POS point of sale because it has been there for years and years, and you want to stick to that. And that's where Limonetik USP, that's our USP, is to be able to build a marketplace API with a good component that the merchant, the marketplace wants to keep inside. And the other way around as well, if a Société Générale or Barclays come to see us and say, we want our marketplace API for tomorrow, but we want Barclays to be in the middle, well, yes, no problem. We can do that very easily because that's the way we have designed our solution since the inception of Limonetik.
So it sounds like a kind of flexible approach through having a modular architecture. Would you say that's true? It's the modularity that really helps you out there?
Yeah, definitely. That's really the key differentiator of Limonetik, that modularity that is in the DNA of Limonetik actually, and the technology. So we don't have to redevelop everything each time there is some modularity needed. The technology by itself is very modular.
No, that certainly makes sense. Now, we were talking a lot about COVID-19 at the beginning, and how that's driving growth of e-commerce. Certainly over the past few months. But if we just look at marketplace sales and profitability generally, how has the shift in purchasing channel with COVID really impacted that? Masha, is that something you can address?
Well, I think just to add, I think it's been quite a lot of it got covered earlier, but I think really just to pinpoint, COVID shook up a lot of supply chains. I personally could not buy sugar, toilet paper, flour, and a whole bunch of essentials. So, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't flour at the manufacturer. I mean, actually, maybe not the best example, but there's certain things that they were there in warehouses. You just couldn't get them to consumer because many, for example, supply chains were to business. So the flour would be sold to restaurants or bakeries, but bakeries were closed. How do you get it to consumers? Now, marketplace model allows you for that quick shift to respond to the demand. And I think as Christophe was talking about COVID-19 PPE equipment and project in France, ability to launch something like that in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, you would never be able to do it otherwise. Just think about a large company, a procurement process to take on a new supplier of personal protection equipment would take months.
Yeah.
By then, they won't need it. They might be dead. So
well, talking about that sort of response, Masha, actually,
the fast onboarding, the fast kind of get up and go of marketplaces is definitely, and I think more interestingly for all of us and for you guys listening, is that I don't think it's going to be phenomena that we're going to forget about after COVID. I think this is something, once you realized you can sell your flour not just to restaurants but also to consumers, you're going to be maximizing your opportunity. You're going to be spreading your risk by selling to a broader range of customers, and customers will be spreading their risk by buying from broader range of suppliers.
I think that certainly makes a lot of sense. We actually had a question from Nikki Ashcroft, and to me this seems to fit into what you're saying, which is about packaging. So in the case of a marketplace, when you've got all these new goods coming along in fairly short periods of time, how can they ensure that the packaging is always Argos or Amazon branded? Do you get into any of those sorts of details, Masha?
Well, it's just outside, obviously, the payment aspect. But I think since we've been using Amazon quite a bit as an example, they make a lot of money on providing the shipping to many of their sellers. So sellers can do their own shipping, or they can work with Amazon. And generally, there's certain terms and conditions that they may request. Now, what I think is also with marketplaces, so of course, it's the fact that it's centralized, right? So the platform is able to integrate with the latest technology. So for example, you can integrate with DHL, UPS, what have you, delivery companies in order to be able to validate something's been delivered immediately. You can integrate to a particular provider of packing and packaging. So I think ability to buy in bulk, and again, we're talking about smaller retailers here, in most cases, not in all, but in most cases, on their own, they either wouldn't have the buying power, or like in cases of manufacturers, they wouldn't know where to start. So platform can provide connectivity to these third parties to provide, be that shipping, as I said, be that wrapping, or be that fraud management, or indeed payment services.
Well, just coming on to payment service and centralization, we have a question from Andreas Dippelhofer, which is regarding the efficient centralized onboarding or even centralized payout processing for multiple payment schemes or providers on a central platform. So how can that be managed in an efficient, centralized way through a marketplace platform?
So again, if you think about it, for each retailer to say, you're selling in 10 countries. So for each retailer to be able to collect payments in those 10 countries, especially if they're not all in Europe, right? You need to have a bunch of different payment providers. So one for America, for example, one for Asia, one for Europe. You will also need to potentially integrate to a number of alternative payment methods, Alipay and Yandex and Ideal and what have you. And again, for many of them, they wouldn't even know where to start. For many of them, they wouldn't be able to negotiate, they'd get really high pricing and so forth. The way that Limonetik marketplace model operates is there's always a payment facilitator central to the marketplace. So what they do on one hand, they will have multiple contracts with alternative payment methods, acquirers, and so forth, in order to be able to collect the money. and they will have payout mechanisms in order to pay all those different small or large retailers in different countries. So to me, the marketplace, in fact, helps to deal with some of those, be that onboarding, be that licensing issues, because the centralized entity or entities will take care of it on behalf of the partners. So again, just to go back, there's two ways of doing a marketplace payment setup. One is for marketplace to become a payment institution themselves, which is something like eBay has done, well, in the past with PayPal being a payment institution. Amazon has done, Rakuten has done, but that's probably about it. If I were to look at the payment schemes websites, I'll find about maximum of 10 marketplaces that have actually gone through that full process of becoming that payment facilitator themselves. Or as in Limonetik model and some other marketplace providers out there, payment providers, the model is you actually use a payment facilitator who takes the money flow away from the marketplace. Marketplace provides everything that they do, from the marketing and sales to potentially shipping and various other deals with integrations to, to Miracles and so forth. But the payment facilitator actually onboards those sellers, collects the money from the schemes and pays them out.
Great. Masha and Christophe, I'd like to thank you both as speakers. It would be great if we could carry on talking, but unfortunately we're completely out of time now. In fact, we're over the time. So I'd like to thank you both. I'd like to thank Limonetik as the sponsor of today's webinar. Just a reminder that the recording along with the presentation PDF will be available to download tomorrow. So everyone who registered will be notified about that. And lastly, I'd like to thank MPE, Philip and the rest of the team for organising today's session. So thank you all for joining us and wish you a very good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.